do that. So official, welcome to the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. Here we are on our 4th Friday of February, a little snowy out here in Kalamazoo still for all those folks right here. So just a few announcements, and I got some of them pasted over here for our use in the chat. On Monday, hosted by Southwest Michigan First, there will be a sustainable community discussion about what's called Scope 3 emissions. So many of us that have climate action plans or are trying to write climate action plans, really then, you focus on your buildings and your emissions first. And the next step then becomes, okay, what kinds of things do we need to engage with our community in? And this one is going to be focused on transportation, because as you all know, a huge source of greenhouse gas emissions. And even during COVID, we're moving around. Mobility is really a huge source of these emissions. And there's so many things that we can do to just commuting, much less getting those goods and services around. So that's going to be the focus of that event on Monday. I hope you'll register. You have to hear from me a little bit, but I only have like 10 minutes, and then we'll get into breakout rooms and we'll do sorts of fun stuff. I guess I'm the Western Michigan University, my real work hat ambassador today. We are going through strategic planning at Western Michigan University, and next week is Sustainability Week. Woo! So we really need your input, folks, and especially folks like you who are going to continue to say carbon, 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 right? And get in there and tell us what we want: water, biodiversity, all those things. There are 2 open listening sessions to the community. I'll put those in here. Next week, you can go to the strategic planning website and find the listening sessions, and you need to register for those. They're going to be virtual. One is next Tuesday morning from 10 to 11, and then next Thursday afternoon from 3 to 4. And Steve Bertman and I will be there to walk you through a SOAR analysis, which is strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And so come join those and give your input to the future that you want to see Western embracing, and where you think we can go as one of the largest landowners and employers in this city. We really have an outsized role that we can play. For students on here, and other folks are encouraged to register. Now, I know I always think of SORE. It's like it's hard for me when I say the word soar. My mind doesn't normally go to an eagle flying above us, right? Instead, I think of, let's not go there. Okay, think of eagles.
Denise, are you encouraging community members to attend those events?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm saying all of you need to register for that session and go and speak your mind and tell Western, tell us, so that we can put that into the goals and objectives. This spring is supposed to all be about priorities and setting the draft big goals and objectives. So that's why we're calling them listening sessions. Come and say, that's the time to say your piece. And for students, and I'm encouraging the public to go to this, but there is a specific one for a Student Sustainability Summit. This will be our 2nd annual Student Sustainability Summit. You can go and listen as non-students and support them, but we will reserve speaking roles for students there, okay? But if you want to know what the students are doing and thinking about, really, really cool thing you can listen to. They'll be both in person at the Bernhardt Center and over Zoom. So 2 ways to join those. Next book club, let's see. We got some big ones coming up. March 8th. Sorry, Donna, I just remembered to make the Facebook post this morning about the event. So I just did that before we got in here. The Tuesday falls on Western spring break, but we're going forward. March 8th will be Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. When I send the announcement out, again, email, I encourage everyone, including a YouTube video of a lecture that she gives on this topic. And I found it fascinating and very helpful for me to then read the book, because it's written from a business scholar's perspective. And so listening to her talk kind of in the background first, that helped me really understand the book. And there you go, you could listen to the talk and not read the book. That's allowed as well. So she's a Harvard professor who has built up this whole book from her seminars with her students. So it's also got some really cutting edge sort of ideas in there. And of course, the biggest fun of all, coming on April 12th, will be Amit of Ghosh. We are going to be able to meet with him virtually in our book club on April 12th. And then he's going to give a public lecture that evening at 7 o'clock. All will be virtual, and you'll be seeing lots of publicity and promotion around those events. So other announcements. I think that's all my spiel. There's a lot going on in my little world. We got to make it to spring break somehow. What's up, Nikki?
Just an aside, I was at Flesher Park the other day and Ostmo through their DDA is putting in a charge station there. It's a level 2 charge station. It has 2 ports on it. It's not active yet. When I talked to Rick from the maintenance department, he thought it might be active next week. He didn't know who you pay to use it. I didn't know what app you're supposed to use. I figure somewhere along the line they'll put out that information. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Ostmo that they've put in a charge station at Flesher Park that'll be active in at least a week or so.
Yeah, and of course they just passed their climate emergency declaration. And Steve, I saw your question. I don't know why that hasn't been in the news more. Maybe one of you needs to go take a great picture next to that charging station with your electric vehicle, and we can find some other ways to give Ostmo the shout out here about not only that, but about passing the climate emergency declaration and some of the actions that they're already taking to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the protocol is. If I mean, it's public knowledge now. So if I sent a blurb to WMUK and say you should cover this, would I be stepping on Libby's toes?
No, not at all. And that's why I already sent them. I sent a couple folks the resolution after it first passed, and we got zero news coverage out of it. So send it again. They tired of hearing from me, right? They know what Keel's email says probably at this point. If you also send it, they might think it's news.
Did you copy me on that?
No, I just have a little press list. I just forward stuff like that and see what gets picked up sometimes. And I was surprised no one reported on it, but there's a few things going on in the world.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Is something going on that we need to or want to share? Going once, twice, 3 times a charm. All right.
I want to say happy Black History Month. We only got a few more days left, and I challenge each of you to take someone of African American descent to lunch or coffee.
Excellent. Thanks, Terry. All right. Well, without further ado, then I'm going to turn it over to our communications chair, the fabulous Donna McClurkin, who makes most of these things run and work, so that she can introduce our guest speaker for today. Donna, it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to welcome Lucy Dilley to join, who's joining us today from the Can-Do Kitchen. Just a little bit of a blurb about what we'll be covering today. The kitchen started in a trailer, which I have a question for Lucy about that in a moment, but just to dig in a little deeper to the description, what started in a trailer has grown into a shared commercial kitchen with multiple stations and a full menu of business support tools. And the Can-Do Kitchen is becoming Can-Do Kalamazoo, a highly collaborative multi-purpose business incubator hub. And Lucy leads the organization as executive director. She has a background in community food systems work, food service and retail, and nonprofit programming. And the Can-Do Kitchen was founded in 2008. And she is fueled by the desire to both build a missing piece of the local food system and create a place where everyone has equitable opportunities to create thriving businesses. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lucy with a quick question about, I'm trying to remember, I remember the kitchen in a trailer, but I can't remember where it was. Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, it was parked at the Kalamazoo County Fairgrounds, which is actually not far from where we currently are today.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Lucy.
thanks, Donna. Thanks
Welcome.
everyone for having me today. I know a few of you, but not everybody, but that's okay. Maybe I'll see you around town once things get even more back to normal. I will be obviously talking about the Can-Do Kitchen today, which, as Donna said, will soon be known as Can-Do Kalamazoo. And I'll talk a little bit more about that transition later on. I'm going to get a little presentation up here. everybody seeing that?
Yep.
Great. So we are a nonprofit organization, and we're working to help entrepreneurs build foundations for their business ideas and remove or lower barriers to doing so. And we do that by providing education and resources, a commercial kitchen, and lots of connections. I founded the program in 2008. Well, that's the date that I say I did, but really the work started a little before that. If you're a business owner, you know that these ideas start brewing way before they actually get started. And I've grown with it ever since, which I'm really grateful for. So we, like I said, we're working on removing barriers. So we think that if everyone can share an economic opportunity in our community, then we're actually going to be stronger. And so the racial equity work is really key to what we do and how we do it. This is Richard from Specialty Cheesecake. He's one of our graduate tenants. So there'll be pictures sprinkled in. I'll just kind of tell you who they are. And then later, if you have any questions about specific folks, you can ask me. So we value our local economy, of course. It's really important for us to advance social and racial justice. We are trying diligently to build equitable systems for entrepreneurs of color and to grow Kalamazoo's local business sector. And in this picture, you see two of our employees, Danetta in the forefront, Keisha in the middle, and then one of our members, Shantea in the back. And we're at a lunch featuring Shantea getting a loan through Michigan Women First. Michigan Women Forward, a finance organization, and we just had a really fun time that day. So I put that picture in there. We'd love to celebrate our entrepreneurs with them. So other Shantea, again, showing us her food. The benefits to local businesses are an easier, more cost-effective way to start a business. You have lower startup costs. We can help you mitigate the risks to starting a business. You have a faster startup process because you're spending less time researching or floundering, which is really common occurrence for entrepreneurs. You have lower production costs because our facility is walk-in, ready to use. We can help you buy in bulk. You can store all your stuff on site. And we have financial supports for entrepreneurs that have low incomes. The Can-Do Kitchen also helps people get on a better pathway to success. So you have quicker access to licensing agents. You have a network of industry connections, peers and mentors, just tons of information and resources. And it gives people a chance to test that product market fit before taking on the large amount of overhead that comes with owning or even renting your own facility. And when you walk in our door, you have instant connections to a lot of important industry networks. And as you probably can guess, people networks are really, really important when you're trying to launch a business. We've been part
Uh-oh, we lost Lucy for a second, it looks like.
I'm back.
She's back. I'm so impressed by everyone's magical abilities in this world.
I know.
You
I
got
don't
it.
even know when it stopped, but here we are. So we are, connected with the local food system, with the local producers and retailers, and we try to make those connections for our producers when they're interested and when it's something that'll work with their business. And we believe that the more we can help to create strong, competitive food businesses right here, it has a lot of ripple effects on people and our economy and our community. So here are some kind of specific things about what the Can-Do Kitchen provides. So of course we have a commercial kitchen with all the equipment. Our facility is regularly inspected, which if you're in the food industry at all, you know that's pretty big benefit. We have all the storage that you would need, actually not all enough, which is why we're moving, which I'll talk about later, but we do have cold, frozen, and dry storage. And all the overhead of the commercial kitchen facility is included in the hourly rent. So folks don't have to worry about paying utilities separately or worrying about if the trash is going to come or paying for Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Equally as important is the startup and small business support that we provide. So there's a kitchen membership, and that comes with a lot of food licensing assistance, help scaling up your recipes. We have Can-Do Camp. It's kind of like a boot camp program. We have ongoing entrepreneur support. So anyone that just needs to come in and talk to us can do that at any time. I feel a throat tickle coming on. Sorry. We have business workshops and tons of resource guides, and we have a Can-Do loan program. And we also, let's see, I'm gonna move on to here. I'm sorry, my throat is just really dry all of a sudden. This is some little peek at our current facility. As you can see, it's, well, it's not showing you all the equipment, but it is fully equipped. We've got big mixers. The biggest one is 60-quart mixer. We have a commercial food processor, blast chiller, convection oven, steam jacket kettle, and a lot more. And we do have the capacity for one business to be using our cooking pod, which you'll see down at the bottom. And 2 people can be using our 2 prep pods, one of which you see in the middle. Hold on just a second, please. I haven't coughed in like forever. Of course, it's happening today when I'm doing a presentation. We're open 24/7, which can help if people have, you know, whatever day jobs, which they usually do. If they need to come in late or come in really early, we're available for that. People can make pretty much any type of food in our kitchen except for alcohol. Can't produce alcohol. You can't produce cheese or yogurt. And you can't produce meat that you want to sell at a wholesale location. So I skipped ahead a little bit. I want to tell you a little bit more about kind of what some of our programs and how many people they reach. So about 75 people every year receive free startup steps at our group tours. 40 entrepreneurs benefit from our Can-Do Camp each year. 15 to 30 people are operating from our kitchen at any given time. We've had about 16 to 20 people graduate into larger kitchens and or their own retail locations. 5 of those folks are now employers. And as these businesses grow, they utilize even more local services. We're advancing equitable opportunities. About 40% of the people that we support have low incomes and low assets. And so we have scholarships and microloans for BIPOC entrepreneurs that have low incomes and assets. Our funding model helps to keep client costs to a minimum. So we get grants and donations to help subsidize some of these costs. We're really focused on work that improves racial equity outcomes, and we track our outcomes in those areas. And we have diverse mentors and Can-Do Camp presenters. So it's really important for us to provide culturally relevant business support for all the diverse entrepreneurs that we support. So our facility, I don't know, sometimes people have heard that we're full, and we are full in a way, and that's why we're moving, but we do still have space. So if you ever hear of a food entrepreneur that really just is looking for some time in the kitchen, please do send them our way. Even though we're moving, we still do have space. And the fact that we have very little space and time left is why we've been working on this relocation. So we, in 2018, I think, we started looking for locations and end up finding one at 519 South Park Street right here. Really close to downtown, not quite in downtown, but that's actually a good thing because we have really great parking here, which is pretty important for the type of work that we're doing. And in addition to our physical expansion, like Donna mentioned, we are becoming Can-Do Kalamazoo. So you'll see the reason why I just have this in plain letters is because we're working on a new logo right now. And pretty soon we'll come out into the community with that new logo and new expanded scope of services. But we've been in communication and partnership with a lot of the business support services over the last couple of years. And there were some studies done, and it was shown that entrepreneurs really did need a full service business incubator in Kalamazoo. And so the Can-Do Kitchen discussed it and decided, you know, a lot of what we do with food businesses applies to any type of business. So we feel like we're poised to take the leadership in this role. And so that's what we've been working on for the past, I don't know, 6 or so months, is tons of community partnerships, developing those, getting direct feedback from entrepreneurs about what they need in this facility, and working with the building owner to be able to lease the kind of space that we need in the building. So we are really excited about this. It's a lot of work, but I know it's going to be worth it, because I think that the way that the Can-Do Kitchen does our work will be really beneficial to expand that to other than food businesses as well. This is just a little drawing. It's not like a detailed floor plan. And actually it doesn't even show like all the additional space that we're taking since we started to become Can-Do Kalamazoo. But that's, you guys will probably all see.
Uh-oh. Lucy, are you still with us? Oh, bummer. Hopefully she'll come right back again, huh?
Wow, it's so annoying.
There you
She's
are.
there. Am I the only one that's leaving periodically?
We think so, huh?
My apologies.
Okay.
Usually have pretty good web or internet. So one of the reasons why we need a bigger kitchen is so we can have more equipment that can help people like get kind of semi-automated with their food production and be able to grow in our facility for longer and before they need to move out and take on their own risks of having their own kitchen. So that's one of the reasons why the kitchen is still a really important component of our new building. We will have physical space for other types of businesses that may need, you know, to rent an office or rent a small non-food production space or a packaging space. We'll do our new building will help us to do this industry-specific accelerator programming that our partners are already doing, but there's no really location for it at this point. We'll be able to do these highly collaborative partnerships with SCORE, SBDC, Black Wall Street, all sorts of organizations that we're working with today. We'll have tiered co-working memberships. So we'll have, you know, the whole point is people to walk in and feel excited and welcome and engaged in what's going on in the space. So we'll have little, you know, tables and desks, and we're gonna have some artwork and just kind of make it a space where you want to be around other people to work on your business and receive services and be part of our programs. We'll also have open office hours for technical business assistants, folks to come on site. So a SBDC counselor like John Schmidt, or a SCORE mentor, or a bookkeeper, or a attorney, all these services that small businesses need but don't always have direct access to actually move along on their process and learn some skills themselves so they can round out their own ability to run their business. Yeah, so then I wanted to show you just a few pictures of the food folks that we've been working with. Good Batch Popcorn is one of our businesses that went through camp just last spring. So she is moving right along and packaging her popcorn. She was a cottage law business and it now commercialized so she can sell wholesale. Cafe Rica in the middle here was part of our camp program probably 3 or 4 years ago. And they have opened up a cafe in Battle Creek that is beautiful, and they just make great coffee and they have great food and they're just great. You can tell their smiles. That's all you need to know. They're just really fun to be with. And then Doreen here, I hope that some of you have seen some of the coverage on Doreen. She's making her peanut brittle, and she just won the Maker's Mark competition that Southwest Michigan First just hosted. That's just so exciting. She's just doing really well. And we love having her as part of our program. Beneshi Mijam up here on the left he does kind of like catering and food truck fare at powwows. You can see one of his dishes down here. Corner store cocktails in the middle. They make they're mocktails, so they're not alcohol, but you could mix them if you want to with alcohol or just drink them. They're just good refreshing beverages. And they are also distributed like in all these different states. So he's doing a really good job. And then Aunt Nay's Cookies and Treats in the right, these are cocoa bombs. Not sure if you all have had cocoa bombs, but they're pretty fun. And she's in her kitchen making them right there. And there's so many more. I couldn't possibly put all the pictures in here today, but I wanted to show you just a few. And then I just thought this was a good segue into some of the challenges that we run up against when we think about entrepreneurs creating and building businesses that might have lower carbon footprint or environmental impact, because there are many. And we do use the word ecosystem in the business world, which who knows if we should or not, but we do. So, but they're really interconnected. So I don't need to tell all the things that are going wrong in our natural world that humans are impacting. And a couple of things that I think about a lot are just that our capitalist extractive system is a beast and is really hard to not participate in. And I think it's really related to those hierarchies that we've created, which put certain groups of people and nature at the bottom. And then our small business ecosystem is obviously completely dependent on the Earth's resources. And another aspect of it is just that it can be really difficult for entrepreneurs to learn how to manage a business and learn how to launch a business, and and integrate any kind of eco-friendly, and there's all greenwashing too, but like to actually try to incorporate eco-friendly business practices, if it's, incorporating a local ingredient or buying packaging that's not plastic or recycling, or having some kind of carbon neutral production process. That stuff is really costly to incorporate into a product. And when you're a small producer, you're already struggling to be able to have a price point that customers find competitive. And another component of the challenge is that the environmental movements haven't been very inclusive historically, and we still struggle with that today. And so there's just a lot of distrust between when we talk about environmental action and ideas to people of color communities. There's just not a lot of trust there. So, and one of the things that's really important to the Can-Do Kitchen is to say, come to the Can-Do Kitchen, tell us your business idea. We're going to do what we can to help you get to where you want to go. And so part of that strategy is hearing where people are at. What have they accomplished so far in their business journey? What do they want to accomplish? And what are their like skill gaps that they're identifying? And I find it that we don't want to throw a bunch of other expectations on people when they walk through the door. We want to help them build the business they want to build. So that's kind of been our approach. Like, we don't say you have to make like healthy food, or we don't say it has to be a sustainable business. It's really any type of food that legally you can make here. We want to support you in that. But I would really like to use my time here with you all if you could help me brainstorm some ways that we could approach, the small businesses in their development or in a more sustainable way. Because I mean, I think it's really important. I think we have to be thinking creatively, and we can't just prioritize certain things. We have to try to do it all. We can't do it all on our own. We have to do it all together, right? But I would like to open up the floor to hear what you all think about how an organization like Can-Do Kitchen or Can-Do Kalamazoo could help folks incorporate those things into their businesses. So
if you're asking what kinds of lists or suggestions could you make, many things could come out of that, but one thing would be encouraging plant-based eating. Another thing could be to reduce styrofoam carry-out containers and to utilize the aluminum pans that everybody uses, that they think it's so easy to throw away and to actually encourage people to use reusable containers for cooking. There's a litany of lists that are published already. And so if it's okay, if you put your email in our chat, I will send you the list that I have accumulated, but it mostly starts out with plant-based eating and not using so many throwaway containers. And then it goes on to reducing cholesterol and blood pressure and diabetes and threats that we, some Black families at the end of cooking every vegetable, they just throw in sugar and butter at the end. Stop doing that. But the other thing is having actually steamed vegetables and maintaining vitamins. So I'd be more than happy to just send you my catch can list, and maybe we come up with a formal list of how that can work. But I appreciate your Can-Do Kitchen. I've been in there many times for weddings and things that I do for my church. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Terry. I'm glad to hear
Over the
that.
years, yeah.
Okay.
Did you mean to open it up, Lucy? Are you ready for the onslaught here?
I'm ready.
So Nikki
Any
had
questions about anything that I talked about, Can-Do Kitchen, or any brainstorming ideas like Terry brought up?
Yeah, Tom, I see your hand. Nikki had a quick question in the chat that I think will be answered. You can answer pretty quickly. Is you were saying that no cheese or yogurt in the does that include the vegan versions as well, or what was that about? Maybe a little bit more on that.
So it's about the inoculation process. So you can't, the state doesn't want, if you're inoculating milk, then there shouldn't be any other bacteria in the air potentially that could get into it at that point. So the shared facility makes that challenging. If we had a closed room, then you could do that inoculation process. With the vegan, like if you want to make vegan milk, that's a really good question.
Yeah, the vegan would have absolutely no dairy product in
Right.
it, and so you wouldn't have that problem.
But would you have to inoculate it if you wanted to make a vegan yogurt? Do you still put the bacteria in?
Oh, depends what you mean by inoculation. I didn't know if you were talking about what they do with the cows, or if you're talking about the bacteria in the actual product.
The bacteria
vegan
added.
cheese, a lot of it has no added bacteria. I've never made vegan yogurt, so I don't know. But I have made vegan cheeses, and no, I don't. When I did that, I didn't add any bacteria to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, there you
Good
go.
question.
There's a quick one on your list. Okay, and I see Tom, Steve, Donna, and I got lots of questions too. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, well, mine is a suggestion that having been a small business operator at one time, sourcing is probably the toughest thing to deal with. You end up sort of, somebody says, well, try this company or try that brand. And that's what you do, because the time consumption in figuring it out is big. So if you had some kind of a database of sources of, say, more sustainable, more environmentally friendly things, and comparison pricing, minority-owned businesses, all that sort of thing would be very helpful for somebody who has all the right intentions but just doesn't have the time to get at it.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with all the other resource guides that we make. So we want to save them time having to do all that research. That's a good idea.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for joining us, Lucy. This is more just a question. I'm curious what the process is by which people can find the Can-Do Kitchen, and by, and how are decisions made about who can get in, and how is a schedule made? Sort of nuts and bolts of, if I, had an idea for, vegan or keto friendly pancakes that Tim could serve at the sugar festival. What, how is there like an application? Do you have an interview process? How does that work?
So there's different ways. One is that people often hear of us either through word of mouth, someone who came to a group tour or someone who went through camp, and they'll call us or stop by. Another way they find us is by internet searches for like commercial kitchens or different terminology like that, and we pop up. We have really good SEO, so we usually pop up at the top. And what we try to do is have people sign up for a group tour, because that is about an hour where right now they're virtual, but they get to learn about all the different things that they can do at Can-Do Kitchen that would support their business development journey. They get to see the facility, get a few first steps of, licensing information or other things like that. And then they would get an application we don't call it application. It's called a Meet My Business worksheet. And it is almost like a miniature business planning tool that we ask them to fill out as much as they can about where they've come with their idea and what kind of support they have, if they have startup money, et cetera. And so Sheena, the person that runs Can-Do Camp, reads all those and has follow-up meetings with everybody and determines if Can-Do Camp is a good next step for them or if they're a quick starter. So for us, a quick starter is someone that usually has started their business on some level and maybe doesn't need to go through camp, although we think that we've had feedback that people at different stages get a lot out of Can-Do Camp. But some folks are just really anxious to get started in the kitchen. So we kind of fast track them, get your license, get your package, get your label, get in there and start cooking. So those are two paths. Go to Can-Do Camp, which might end up that you'd be in the kitchen, go right to the kitchen. Or another path would be meet with our microloan coordinator, because sometimes people come into us through the interest in one of our microloans. And so then our coordinator, talks through different steps with them. And they might be ready for a loan or they might not quite be ready. It's not clean and neat. It's messy. It's, really where are people, what do they want to do? What do we have to offer them? And then what path from there? It's going to get even more complex as we become Can-Do Kalamazoo, because we'll be, getting inquiries from all different types of businesses. And we actually have developed a roadmap to help us and to help entrepreneurs see where they might need to go to get to not just launching, but sustaining after that. When it comes to our kitchen, so basically we don't say no to anybody. It really depends on their commitment, their motivation, their ability to move through required steps, really. And they're not always our requirements. It might be the licensing requirements or like business registration, banking requirements. Yeah, we don't say no to anybody. We do our scholarships and our microloans are available only for people of color, BIPOC people who have low incomes and low assets. So we do say no to some people if they want that specific loan, but we help them find another source. So we're not really saying no, we're just saying here's another path. And then Steve, were you asking about like kitchen scheduling?
Well, yeah, but we don't necessarily have to get into the weeds that far. That you say no to, you don't say no to anyone is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I imagine can lead to some scheduling challenges. But
Yeah, I mean, it can, and that's partly why we're moving, right? To get a kitchen where we have many more stations that people can use at the same time. But there's so many different levels of participating in the Can-Do kitchen that they're not all trying to get in the kitchen at once, you know? So some people are starting their business, some people are graduating, finding other locations. There's kind of a rotation, a slow rotation that happens in the actual kitchen.
Thank you. I see Donna and then Susan. Go ahead, Donna.
Hey, Lucy, I have a whole bunch of questions. I'll just ask a couple. And then if the other ones don't get answered and we still have time, I'll jump back in or put them in the chat or whatever. So just a comment before I ask a couple of questions. My comment is that sustainability can mean many different things to different people. And I view what you're doing at the Can-Do Kitchen and pretty soon to be Can-Do Kalamazoo to be exhibit A of what community resilience and adaptation can be for not just climate change, but a whole host of other societal issues, building community and supporting folks that want to be entrepreneurs and economic development locally is awesome. So thank you for that work. I'll just ask two questions, although I have a lot more, but my first one is, I need a cocoa bomb. I've never had one. Where can I get one? And do you want me to ask my second one too, or?
I'll answer you really quickly. You can get one on
Okay.
Can-Do Crate, our online store.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll need more than one, so I hope I can order. Okay, so it's called Can-Do Crate.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay. So let me just throw out, we had a session with the West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum a couple weeks ago, and really awesome presentation. And one of the things that was talked about, you know, sort of peripherally is that there's nobody really doing in Kalamazoo that I know of other than the bike farm composting. And so it seems to me like your location, which by the way is right behind Walnut and Park, for folks that don't know, might be something to consider. I don't know if you have the space or even the interest, but it feels like a potentially natural location, just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just ask this, do you offer childcare?
We don't we probably can't say that we offer childcare, but at workshops, when we used to be in person, we would like hire a babysitter to come and be in a separate room with anyone that wanted to have their kids stay in that room during the workshop. And that's a huge help. I mean, just having that ability. So yes and no.
I think you better warn whoever makes those bombs that we're all going to be ordering them, right? In the next half hour, they're going to see this huge spike, hopefully, from the coalition. Susan, what are you thinking?
Yes, thank you, Lucy. I'm wondering if you're familiar with the World Resource Institute's Cool Food Initiative, which offers a lot of support for businesses at all levels, both behind the scenes and up front, with menu options and phrasing of menu options, all data-based, to help move towards sustainability as well as a more plant-based diet.
Thanks. I hadn't heard of that. I just wrote it down. I'll look into it.
Great. Yeah. Good luck. Thanks for your work.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susan. You took one off my list. I was thinking about the same resource. So thank you, Lucy. I think it's perfect kind of how Donna phrased that, this idea of, you know, already being local, focusing on racial equity. Those are the kinds of systems that we know we're looking and seeking to build to be more resilient. I think that there would be a real role in thinking about what you're already doing and sort of fast tracking and providing resources for businesses. I think that we could help play a real role in being, you got lawyers on hand, you got tax folks, why not have, I'd be happy to help with a carbon neutral list of folks, right? That you can see there's already a wealth of information just in a meeting today that isn't even a cross section of some of the folks and their knowledge and abilities. And I think from everything from the sourcing that you've heard about today, like, and how maybe we could help compile some guides or people to talk to in town about how you do that, to production. I mean, there are several, as you know, what's called a B Corps here in town, and CalSec is one of our, like, how would you go all the way on production, or where does a person even start? And there are really some really good folks doing that in town that I think would be honored, frankly, to serve as one of your resource lists. And then I hope I see you Monday about transportation and businesses. Lots of businesses at that event are going to be focused on, how do we reduce our emissions, focused on transportation, and that's mobility of your own workers plus distribution of those goods, right? How do you get your product out to market? So I think, and then there's investing, right? Financial investing and some of the climate risks there. And there are certain green funds that people know to put in. And I feel like we have people in, like, those are my kind of off the cuff big four categories. And I feel like we have folks in this group who would, again, I think be rather honored if they could serve as some sort of resource or help compile a guide and be part of Can-Do Kitchen / Kalamazoo moving forward. Does that sound like something we could work on?
Yeah, I mean, if I would love help, making some guides for these. I mean, that's kind of where it starts, is with a lot of things. We need something we can hand to people with resources, and that would be really helpful. I'll definitely reach back out.
Yeah, and I find too, as with students, right, it's not always like, here's the guide and maybe you'll read everything, but sometimes just having someone else to talk to, right, that can be sort of on demand to walk you through, here's a couple of the choices that we made, or a quick place to start. I totally admire what you're doing, right? How do I help people get off the ground? And that's what so many of us are really seeking, of course, carbon neutrality. So Donna, you had some other questions. Is distribution an issue, Lucy, when you're thinking of, or when these businesses, or even for you, I suppose?
Yeah, it's not an issue for us as an organization necessarily, but we have, it is, I mean, it's a really big challenge to help beginning small business owners understand the value of having a distributor, because what they do is they do it all on their own, and they're not charging themselves for their own time. They're not valuing their time. And so it's the thought of another middle person, nobody likes that thought, so we try to plant the seed early, to try to tell them, if you're doing a retail product, distribution really is something that you eventually will probably need. So in your pricing structure today, work it in there, even though you're not using a distributor yet. But then for folks that really are ready for it, it is hard to find a good fit, and I think people, don't trust distributors and middle people very much. The KVCC's Valley Hub is a resource there. We're getting people in there so they can get distributed at least that way initially.
And Donna, I'll just ask it for you. So I was kind of going on this line of, who we could put, kind of what we could help create as far as resources, and who could serve as resources. So what about volunteers? How do folks do that with you, or how do we make that happen?
Yeah, we don't have like a really great volunteer coordination system. I mean, our volunteers are mostly focused on our fundraisers, which are night markets, which you should all come to this summer in person outside at the newly renovated farmers market site on Bank Street. They start in June. So we have a lot of volunteers that help with that. And that's really, really helpful, because it helps it to be a fundraiser for us. And I mean, your question about like, how do people get involved? So I'm not giving us quite enough credit. We have tons of volunteers that aren't our fundraising volunteers, but I don't always call them volunteers, but they are. We have mentors and we have guest camp presenters. So those people plug in right through our camp program. So they'll work with Sheena, you know, to coordinate their times and things. So if there's a specific, I think probably Keisha, our kitchen manager, would be a good point person for you all to meet to help develop some of those guidelines, because she's directly interfacing with the food businesses when they're in that thought process of sourcing and getting their packaging and all that stuff.
Well, I think we would love to come, if there's any room. I'm sure it's pretty packed camp schedule to do even a little bit of an introduction to carbon neutrality and those kind of sectors, and who in the community would be a resource for that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we're about, and want to share those resources too. So
Yeah, let me talk to Sheena about the camp. I mean, it just started this week, so there's 15 more weeks, and see where if she could fit that in. Yeah.
Well, and if we do all that, then I have to ask you, and everyone on here knows, will you consider being an affiliate of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition?
What does that mean?
It means that you support our mission of reducing greenhouse gases here in Kalamazoo through a just transition is the essential thing. We don't ask for any money or anything else. If you support that mission, we also rarely say no.
Yeah,
I'll send you the longer form and some stuff like that.
for sure.
We hope you will
For sure.
consider that, and it's the way to kind of formalize this connection and help us build that out.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely open to that.
Cool.
And as we're moving in, or as we're gonna start renovating this new building, I definitely want to work in, you know, it's not going to be LEED certified, or it's not a new build, but you know, is there anyone on the call here that could help us figure out how to get maybe some funding that's specific for different improvements in the building, or just ideas?
Yes.
I have a few ideas, but
There's definitely, you're thinking along the right lines, right? You want to do that when you're moving in and when you're renovating that facility. Yes, there's some folks that we can put you in contact for everything from HVAC systems to vents to water, you name it, right?
And Lucy, I just got some support. I'm building a net zero barn on my property, a pole barn, and got all of the upscale appliances donated. So I'll talk to you about that particular thing, and working with folks to get solar and geo installed as well. And then the metal bricks and mortar is all donated. And I'll give you the list of who's supporting, and the Amish company, the family who's going to do the barn raising. We'll talk. I'll have coffee down at your kitchen one day soon.
okay, sounds good.
Tom, go ahead. Another question?
Well, I'm I'm happy to offer some building renovation support with you, and I'd love to go through the facility and just kind of kick the tires while you're thinking about it. But my question is, when are you planning on opening over on Park Street?
That is a great question. This year. This calendar year. I would like the renovations to start in late spring, if at all possible. I'm gonna be at the mercy of the contractors pretty soon here. Actually, I already am.
Well, give me a call, or I'll put my email in the chat, and happy to help where I can.
Perfect, thanks.
And thanks, Eileen. We didn't even mention Better World Builders. I don't know if you know about them in town, Lucy.
Yeah, I know them.
Yeah, you know, Mark, they're pretty open to coming through and seeing what you can do, and they always, you know, do a reasonable kind of like, there's like stages, right? So not everyone is able, you know, to do everything all at once, and absolutely thinking through smartly, right? What I can start with today, and maybe where I want to end up 10, 20 years from now is definitely an approach that we're all pretty familiar with in this group. As much as we'd like to be carbon neutral yesterday, it takes a lot of effort and thought.
Yeah.
What are other folks? Other questions? Oh, did I miss anything in the chat? Help me out if you put something in the chat and I haven't lifted it up yet, or you got other questions for Lucy while we have her.
So Lucy, I'm wondering if how your operation was affected by COVID.
Well, we didn't ever close down. At the early days, we instituted some rules about only one person in the building at a time, basically, like one producer at a time. But really, a lot of the businesses that were renting our kitchen they just took a break. A lot of them did. They really were. They hunkered down and tried to wait and see what was happening. And so a lot of folks we helped one new person get a state license in 2020, and that was it. Nobody else was even trying. So that was really sad to see. We stayed in contact with people, but they weren't really doing much with their business. We missed out on some funding. Our fundraiser was canceled, so that was kind of hard, but I wrote some other grants to make up for it. I mean, we did okay. We did okay. Yeah, I'm grateful to work actually for a pretty small organization because we had a lot of ability to make decisions collectively about what we were going to do. That worked for everybody's comfort levels. But camp is still virtual, which is, there's definitely some missed opportunities with that. We can't do the tasting. We can't do the chef tasting panel. They can't try each other's foods, which is no fun. So and the only reason we didn't go in person this time was just the uncertainty of we'd have to rent someone else's building room. And what if they decided that they had to close their building down? So when it's our own space, it's a whole different ballgame. But I've grown our organization since COVID. I mean, we've increased our staff. We didn't lose any staff. We added staff, which has been hugely helpful. So.
Anything else out there? Well, we're so glad that you are in our community and doing what you are doing, and Can-Do Kitchen and all of its mission and goals. I see a lot of alignment and again, some future ways that we can continue to grow and work together in our little neck of the woods here, right? So I always like to give everybody a big round of applause here. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us. And we wish we were in person too, because it's the noon hour and we want to taste some goodies. And so I think we're going to have to, Donna, put this back on when we're ever in person again, not if, but when. We need a Can-Do Kitchen lunchtime tasting event, I believe, as we talk about carbon neutrality. Yes, I'm hungry. I didn't have my lunch yet. You can tell. I'm dying. I'm going to order everything from that site right now.
Well, thank you all. I was really glad to be here, and I knew I was going to get some good ideas from this group, so I appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll be talking to a lot of you in the near future.
Thank you so much.